Hello and thank you for tuning in to Millennium Movies. Boy, oh boy, did we get the most intense episode of Servant by far. I mean, bar none. I was scared for so many people's lives in this episode. I know there's a lot of Leanne apologizers and a lot of Leanne sympathizers out there who were probably rooting for Leanne to kill off just everybody in the series in this one episode. Well, I'm not one of those people, and I know I'm going to hear it from you guys in the comment section. At this point, I don't care. Go ahead, bring them on. But let's get right into it. So we see in this episode that Sean and Julian, decide that they're going to hand Leanne off to Uncle George and his the members of the Church of the Lesser Saints who have gone away from that church, and they're now trying to deal with things on their own. And Leanne at this point, she gets blindsided from Sean and Julian after she's basically has her sticking her head out from the roof of the Turner house, and she's yelling out into the thunderstorm, and she's saying, "Is that all you got?" And I can you can't stop me, and this and that and the other. And that was a really cool shot, by the way. Leanne on the rooftop as the rain was pouring down on her, and there's thunder and lightning in the background, and the city landscape in the back with all the buildings. Just a beautifully composed shot. So I just wanted to point that out real quick. But from that moment on, Julian tries to get Leanne to, he's trying to tell her, he's trying to get her into the basement, to the tunnels, and she immediately says, "No, I'm not going to do that." And so he kind of just calls out for Sean. He gets scared and he calls out for backup, right? And Sean comes, and basically the two of them together they try and take Leanne down. They accidentally knock her out, accidentally. And then they decide, okay, well, we'll just put her in a wheelchair and we'll wheel her off to Uncle George, and we're done with her, right? We're done. Let's go grab some wine, let's go kitchen and celebrate. That's it. But no, because as we see down there in the tunnels with Uncle George is essentially begging Leanne, and I never thought I'd say this, but I really did feel bad for Uncle George in his death scene. I never thought I'd say that for the guy, because he was sort of always presented as sort of this antagonistic character throughout the seasons, but in this moment, the performance from the actor who plays him really shined, and I felt that sorrowful, remorseful. He was very remorseful of his actions and the way he raised Leanne, and the fact that he allowed things to get to the point where they're at now. I felt that in the performance, and he literally does get on his knees and he begs Leanne. He begs Leanne to have to basically, off herself because no one else can do it. But he's not trying to say like, you should do it because of this and that. No, he's trying to appeal to her, to the better nature of Leanne that is maybe still in there. It's a little bit, but maybe there's still some of that in there. And he's saying it for the reasons that, again, this series really spells it out for you in these past couple of episodes. But in this sequence in particular, Uncle George is saying, if you really love the Turners, this obsession that you have with them, if you really want them to be happy, first off, the obsession is not healthy for anybody involved. But if you really want them to be happy, let them go. Let them live a semi-normal life, and you have to not be in it. And she's got tears coming out of her eyes, and she's actually listening to what Uncle George has to say. That his words are not just falling on deaf ears. She's actually hearing him out. And then it's not until the point where he calls out her wickedness that snaps her back into the reality. She sort of snaps out of the trance that he had her in, and she's like, "Oh hell no!" And then she freaking grabs the knife that he gave her, and she sticks it right up his chin, and we see the flaming, this not flaming hot, but it's a really hot knife to the point where there's some orange light coming out from it, right? And the light sort of lights up his mouth and his insides from when we see the pointy end of the knife sticking out from inside of his mouth. Man, what a sweet looking and gnarly looking composed shot, right? So big ups to the production crew on that. But Leanne, she goes and she attacks the other two members that were with Uncle George. She kills them. She comes back and stabs his eyes out, just like he told her if she's gonna off herself, that's where she should start. She should take out her eyes, and she takes out his eyes. That was really cool. That was a really cool little setup that they did there. But Leanne, she goes back into the house, and man, Sean and Julian are terrified. Their performances from Rupert Grint and Toby Kebbell really sell it, that they're like, oh crap. She's going to be angry, she's going to be pissed, and she might possibly kill us. And she nearly does, because, man, the knife after, Sean gets knocked to the ground and the knife goes into his chest, I thought for a second it was going to hit his heart. I was very, very concerned for Sean in that moment. And I know some of you probably like, no, Sean should die. But no, I really like Sean's character, and I was hoping that he would pull through. And Julian is very useless in terms of when it comes to physically being a threat to anybody, because we've seen him get smacked around by Sean, and we've seen him in this episode. He just sort of stumbles down he gets pushed down the stairs into the basement, and then he slips and falls into the water hole, and then all the wine, comes crashing down on him, and he gets incapacitated that way. And then at the end of this episode, Sean and Julian are both sort of stretchered away, and Leanne, one of the final things that she says to Sean as he's being carted away is she tells him, "I'm never gonna let you in this house again." And the episode ends with Dorothy and Leanne being the only two people in the house with baby Jericho. And it's, as I said at the beginning of this season, and even before the season began, is that it's gonna come down to Dorothy having to be the one to put away Leanne for good. It has to be Dorothy. With this obsession that Leanne has with her, it's going to be her downfall. Just the way that Leanne's always been obsessed with, having Dorothy be this sort of perfect mother figure that she never had in her previous life, her childhood. That's going to end up, that obsession is going to end up coming back to bite her. With Dorothy is somehow, some way going to be the one to put Leanne away. And I think that the key to unlocking that situation, that scenario, is that Sean and Julian together, just like they were both in this sort of accident that sort of happened to them in this episode, the way that they decided to do that together, I think with next week's episode, Sean and Julian together need to decide to finally tell Dorothy the truth about what happened. And I think that what this Dorothy has been through, will be able to come to terms with it, and she'll be able to put a stop to Leanne to save basically this new Jericho. And I think that's ultimately sort of how this series is going to end. I know some people in the comment section are going to be, peed off. They're going to be ticked off. They're going to be upset that Leanne is going to lose and that Leanne may possibly die. I think she has to die, and that the Turners are going to get some sort of happy ending. But I gotta say, I think that that's what's gonna happen, and I think that that's what should happen. Uncle George spells it out again, as I've been trying to tell people in the comments for the past couple of weeks, that this series is spelling it out. Leanne's obsession with Dorothy is not healthy. The sort of twisted fantasy that she's created for them in the beginning of the series was not healthy. And yes, Sean and Julian allowed it to come to that because, again, Sean and Julian, respectively, had just lost a wife and a sister, essentially, with the loss of, the OG Jericho. And they made a mistake in allowing Leanne to, bring this new child into their lives to act as a surrogate son for Dorothy. And now they had their family back together. Well, it was a family built off of a lie. So Leanne is in the wrong here. And she's ultimately going to die at the end of this season. And I know some people want to tell me that, because I said that M. Night Shyamalan is not going to allow for a nihilistic ending or a sort of downer ending or a bad ending. He simply does not do that with his properties and with his content, with his movies. He doesn't do that. And for those of you who keep trying to sort of quote unquote correct me in the comments by saying that, M. Night Shyamalan is not writing these episodes, and yes, he's not writing all the episodes, and that M. Night Shyamalan is not the story creator. Yes, he's not the story creator. But M. Night Shyamalan is the showrunner. And at the end of the day, the showrunner gets the final say on what happens in this series. So, I'm not trying to say this in a sort of combative way, even though it may come off that way. I'm just trying to say it in a sort of stated as sort of a more of a matter of fact. And that M. Night Shyamalan is the head honcho here. Everything goes through him. Everything that we see on screen, everything that gets written in the scripts, it's ultimately... it comes down to his say of he gets a yes or he gets a no in terms of what we see on screen. So I'm just telling you the way I think that this episode, the way I just explained it a few minutes ago, how I think it's going to end. I feel like it's sort of going to end more likely like that than opposed to what other people want to see in the comment section, where Leanne gets the victory and Leanne gets, I don't know. I don't even know what that looks like, but some people want Leanne to win and they want her to, I don't know if they want the Turners to die or they want her and, this new Jericho to run the world, run this new world together. I don't know. But I'm just going to tell you that's not going to happen. So, yeah, but this has been my recap and review of Servant, Season 4, Episode 8. Yeah, if you guys have stuck around this long after all of that and want to stay up to date on the latest in the world of movie and TV news and Servant as we get to the final 2 episodes, well then, of course, stick around and I'd love to have you along for the ride. But until next time, this has been Millennium Movies, and I will see you all very soon.